The dining room of the Harrison estate was silent except for the clink of crystal and the low hum of restrained laughter. It was just past 9 on a winter night, the kind reserved for family dinners where power was displayed politely and cruelty wore pearls. Arya Matthews sat at the far end of the marble table, shoulders squared, hands folded in her lap. Her red dress already marked as a mistake in a room that measured worth by bloodlines and balance sheets. Benjamin didn't look at her when he spoke. "I want a divorce," he said calmly. "Natasha is pregnant. This ends tonight." Arya's breath caught. "We're married," she whispered. "You chose me." Natasha smiled and rested a hand on her stomach. "He never loved you." Before Arya could stand, Benjamin's mother rose, lifted the glass pitcher, and poured it over her head in one clean motion. Cold juice soaked her hair, her face, her dress. "Get out," Gianna snapped. "Gold diggers don't belong at this table." Laughter followed. Even Benjamin laughed. They watched her break, certain they were witnessing the removal of a woman with nothing to lose. None of them realized the truth forming behind Arya's trembling eyes. The woman they were throwing out had just decided to take everything from them. Subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales, because what happens next is not mercy. It's collapse. The doors of the Harrison estate closed behind Arya with a heavy thud, muffling the laughter still echoing inside. Streetlights cast a pale glow on the driveway as she walked away, each step unsteady, her hair sticky with orange juice, her breath sharp and uneven. She didn't turn back. Not because she didn't want to, but because she knew if she did, the last pieces of her dignity might shatter right there on the cold pavement. She moved forward, one trembling step at a time, until the estate was just a shape swallowed by darkness. By the time she reached her apartment, she no longer bothered wiping the juice from her face. She stepped straight into the shower, let the hot water wash over her, and watched the humiliation swirl down the drain. When she finally lifted her head, something inside her had stopped begging and started hardening. The woman who had hoped for acceptance was gone. What remained was someone who had finally opened her eyes. In the days that followed, she didn't allow herself to collapse. She went to work, but no one at Stellar Dynamics knew what had happened. At least, not from her. Her assistant, Morgan, studied her face during a morning briefing and said softly, "You look like you didn't sleep." Arya didn't blink. "I didn't," she answered, then continued outlining the quarterly strategy as if her world hadn't fallen apart. But beneath that calm tone, her thoughts moved with new precision. Every memory sharpened, every slight became evidence, every humiliation a reference point. She replayed the dinner scene over and over. Benjamin's careless voice, Natasha's smile, Gianna's cold satisfaction. The more she remembered, the stronger she felt. On the 4th day, she met with her legal team. They sat in a glass-walled conference room high above the city, papers spread across the table, the skyline stretching endlessly behind them. "You're entitled to walk away quietly," her attorney Margaret said. "No alimony, no claims, no publicity. Clean, simple." Arya closed the folder in front of her. "No," she said. "Not simple. Not quiet." Margaret looked up, eyebrows raised. "Then what do you want?" Arya didn't hesitate. "Everything they think I don't have." From that moment, she moved like a strategist preparing for a war only she could see. Her company's research team traced the Harrison family's finances. Stellar Dynamics' legal division reviewed every contract, every investment, every outstanding loan. By the end of the week, the truth lay neatly organized on her desk. The Harrisons were drowning, and their smiles at dinner had been nothing more than a thin curtain stretched over panic. That night, she sat alone in her office, overlooking the lights of the city she had once fought to survive in. She allowed herself a moment of stillness. The hurt was still there, curled deep like an old bruise, but it no longer controlled her. It fueled her. Her phone buzzed. A message from Benjamin. "We need to talk, please." She stared at the screen for a long moment, then placed the phone face down, uninterested in anything he needed. She didn't respond. The next morning, her team acquired the Harrisons' debt through a web of subsidiaries, each purchase carefully crafted so they wouldn't know who held the strings. Meetings were held quietly, signatures exchanged without attention. By the end of the process, the fate of Harrison Hotels fit neatly into a folder no thicker than her palm. 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized, the Harrison family received the notice. Payment due. $15 million. 30 days. Failure to comply would result in immediate foreclosure. The reaction was exactly what Arya expected. Inside the Harrison home, Gregory paced the length of the living room while Gianna sat rigid on the couch, her hands gripping the armrests. "This makes no sense," Gregory muttered. "Why would the bank sell to a private creditor we've never heard of?" Gianna straightened her pearl necklace, a gesture she used when grasping for control. "We can negotiate. They wouldn't dare move against us if they know who we are." But they weren't dealing with someone intimidated by wealth or titles. They were dealing with the woman they had laughed at while she sat soaked in orange juice at their table. While they scrambled, Arya prepared for the next stage. A formal invitation was sent from Stellar Dynamics, requesting a meeting regarding a potential partnership, one that could save Harrison Hotels from immediate financial collapse. Benjamin, who had been avoiding the subject of the divorce with his family, finally spoke up. "We need this," he said quietly. "Whoever this CEO is, they might be our only chance." Gianna scoffed. "A tech woman. What does she know about hospitality?" "Enough to buy our debt," Jessica said from the corner, her voice tight with worry. 2 days later, the family arrived at Stellar Dynamics headquarters. They stepped into the towering lobby with its sleek glass walls and soft ambient lighting, obviously intimidated. They followed the receptionist to the conference room, whispering among themselves. When Arya entered, she didn't rush. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor, her posture straight, her expression composed. Her presence alone shifted the atmosphere. The family froze, confusion melting into disbelief, then horror. Benjamin stood slowly. "Arya," he breathed, but she raised a hand before he could continue. She took her seat at the head of the table. "We're here for business," she said. "Let's begin." They listened, stunned, as she explained the terms. Their debt, their impending foreclosure, their failed investments, their dwindling reputation. Each fact delivered with clear precision, each point irrefutable. Gregory swallowed hard. "We didn't know things were this bad." "You didn't bother to look," Arya replied calmly. Gianna finally found her voice. "You tricked us. You made us think you were beneath you." Arya finished for her. "Yes, you made that clear." Jessica leaned forward, desperation cracking her polished composure. "Please, you can help us, right? We know you can." Arya studied her for a long moment. She thought of every insult whispered behind her back, every look that dismissed her, every reminder that she did not belong. She let the silence hang just long enough for the weight of it to settle. Then she closed the folder in front of her. "You called me a gold digger," she said softly. "But I never took a single thing from you. And now, you owe everything to me." Gianna's face crumpled. "We were wrong," she whispered. "We didn't know who you were." "You never asked," Arya said. "You never cared." When she rose to leave, Benjamin reached for her arm. "Arya, please. I made a mistake. I should never have." She stepped back out of his reach. "You laughed," she said. "You watched them humiliate me." His voice cracked. "I loved you." "No," she answered. "You loved the idea of someone beneath you, someone you could fix or control or discard. That was never me." She walked out without waiting for their response. In the weeks that followed, the fall of the Harrison family became the quiet talk of the industry. Their hotels shuttered, their mansions sold. Their influence evaporated almost overnight. Former allies distanced themselves. Invitations stopped coming. Their name, once spoken with a certain prestige, shifted into a cautionary tale. Gianna and Gregory moved into a modest apartment far from their old neighborhood, their savings drained, their reputation fractured beyond repair. Jessica took a job at a retail store, her designer wardrobe replaced with the basic uniform of an hourly employee. Natasha left once the financial safety net disappeared, taking the child with her. And Benjamin, once groomed to inherit a hotel empire, found himself working at a dealership, his commission barely covering rent. Their downfall wasn't loud. It wasn't public revenge or shouted accusations. It was a quiet erosion, one consequence after another, each one earned. Meanwhile, Arya rose higher. Her company expanded. New partnerships formed. She rebuilt her life not from the ruins of humiliation but from the strength that had always been there, waiting to be claimed. And when her story eventually spread, when people learned what she had endured and what she had achieved, she didn't correct a single detail. She didn't need to. The truth stood on its own, sharp and undeniable. Underestimating her had cost them everything. But the story didn't end there. 3 months after the Harrisons lost their final property, Arya received a letter. No return address. No signature. Just a single line written in uneven handwriting. "We were wrong. And now we finally understand what it cost." She folded the letter once, placed it in a drawer and closed it. Their understanding changed nothing. Their downfall was complete. And her rise had only begun. When the dust finally settled, Arya stood on the rooftop of her headquarters, the city glowing beneath her like a map of every choice she had survived. She didn't feel triumph in their downfall. Only clarity. What they tried to break had never belonged to them. What she rebuilt afterward was entirely her own. The storm they unleashed had revealed something she hadn't seen before. The quiet steadiness of her own strength, and the certainty that truth endures long after cruelty fades. As the wind moved through her hair, she closed her eyes, letting the moment settle, a reminder that rising again is sometimes the final answer. If this story moved you like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales to help the channel grow.